how to avoid burnout in the cleaning industry. So this is an extremely common thing that I come across with business owners as they grow their businesses. Ultimately, the cleaning industry is still a one where we're managing people. We're managing clients on one side and cleaners on the other. And inherently, managing people can be stressful and emotional. So in this video, I want to take you through 3 key steps you need to go through to alleviate that stress, alleviate those problems, and ultimately build a business that you can run relatively stress-free. So let's jump straight into it. So first of all, we need to create systems and processes within our business. So people talk about this an awful lot, but what does it mean in practice? So every single day in your business, you will be doing a multitude of tasks. If you're the business owner and you're managing the day-to-day operations, you'll probably be dealing with, clients on one side, maybe giving quote requests to people. Maybe you are dealing with clients who are already in the schedule and looking to, for example, make a change to their time or, add some checklist items. On the other side, you will be managing cleaners and, potentially running interviews and onboarding new cleaners. So you'll be doing lots and lots of different things. And, from speaking from first-hand experience, what I found was that you'd get to the end of the day and you'd feel completely exhausted. And the reason for that is that you are trying to process all these tasks in your mind. You don't have anything down on paper, and this constant, trying to process these items, is exhausting. So what we need to do is we need to try to get what's in our mind down onto paper or down onto a Google document or a Microsoft Word spreadsheet. And the idea is that with a systems and processes document, what we're trying to do is identify all the different tasks that we do in our business on a day-to-day basis, and we need to come up with a document that says, if A happens, do B, or if C happens, do D. So there needs to be a step-by-step process for every single item that comes in. A new client calls in asking for a quote. What do we do next? We ask for the size of the property. We then ask for, we ask locations, all these sorts of things, and then all the way through to either booking or not booking that client. So we want to try to figure out all the key systems and processes in our business. And the way that I tell people to start doing this is to simply, as I said, open up a Google Doc or a Microsoft Word document. And over the course of the week, just note down all the different tasks you're doing. It doesn't need to be in such detail, but it could be, say, new client request or new telephone interview with new cleaning recruit, or dealing with a customer complaint, or speaking with a cleaner who was late to their first job. We want to try and make a list of all the different tasks that we've had to do at the beginning. Don't worry about categorizing them or doing anything, at the start. We just want to get all those things down. And then once that first week has gone by, it's likely that, over the course of the week that we've seen the majority of all the different things that we'll need to do. So at the end of that first week, we then need to start to categorize them. So we could categorize certain sort of new client related tasks, pricing, locations, things like that, existing client tasks, changing the start time of a cleaning or adding new checklist items. We've got a cleaner management category where we're dealing with cleaners who are already working with us. Maybe they are, we're getting some complaints, or maybe they're not turning up on time. And then we've got obviously the other area around cleaner recruitment, running interviews and things like that. So with this list of tasks that we've collected over the course of the week, we want to start to categorize them, because at the moment there'll be a long list of tasks all over the place. We need to start to categorize them to start making sense of them. And once we have these categories in place, what you'll find is that ideally the majority of your tasks that you've listed in that week will go into, say, between, I would say around 10 main categories. And what we want to do is then we want to do a step-by-step process. So as I said before, new client request comes in. What's the first thing we do? Ask for the size of the property. Second thing, location, and then we can give a quote. So there needs to be a step-by-step process. If a client complaint comes in, what's the first process? Respond to the client saying we're looking into it. Next step is following up with the cleaner to get their side of the story. Step 4 is then coming up with a solution, getting back to the client. And maybe the next step after that would be, after the next cleaning, we need to follow up with that client to make sure everything was okay. So every single category or task, we need to have a step-by-step process. And what you'll find is that although this would probably feel like a fair amount of work at the beginning, it will really, really pay off, because what you're doing is getting all the information from your brain down onto paper. And what you'll find is that, if, for example, a new client complaint comes in, you don't need to think about all the things we need to do. Oh, this is a really high paying client. I don't know how the cleaner's going to react. You can just go to your document and go through it step by step. And you'll find that your stress levels, your burnout will really come down, because everything that has come from your mind is now down on paper. So, with this document, this is just your first iteration. As you grow the business and as you take on more cleaners and clients and you scale up, you will constantly iterate on this. You will constantly make that document better. So step 1 is getting this systems and processes document, this SOP document, in place to begin with, and then to refer to that rather than thinking about things on the fly in your brain. So once we have that in place, we then move on to step 2. And step 2 is hiring your first VA, your virtual assistant. And this will really take your stress levels down a further notch, because the idea is that because you have a systems and processes document in place, you should in theory be able to give a new virtual assistant that document and get them to run the business for you. Obviously, it's not going to be as simple as that, but really this is the goal. So with the virtual assistant, the idea with hiring a VA is that you don't need to hire someone on a full-time contract straight away. This would be a big financial burden. What you can do is hire a freelancer virtual assistant. They could either be based, in your country, or they could be based overseas, which potentially has, you could potentially work with someone on lower rates of pay as well. So the idea is that you want to start to hire that VA on a part-time basis to begin with. Don't give yourself a huge financial burden at the beginning. The idea is that, hire that person on a part-time basis, see how they get on. If they get on well and the business is growing and making more money, then yes, you can look to increase their hours up to the point where effectively they're working full-time. So first of all, you want to hire them on a part-time basis. The next thing to do is look at your systems and processes document. And with all your categories and tasks in place, then you want to start to rank them. High priority, low priority, high risk, low risk. And the way that I think about this is that a high risk task would be something where, if that VA dealt with that task in a wrong way, or messed up that task, what would be the impact on your business? So let's say your highest paying client calls you in for a complaint, and your VA answers that and deals with the complaint badly, and that client cancels. Obviously, that's going to have a really, really big impact on your business. So this would be a high risk task. What would be an example of a low risk task? Maybe calling up a late paying client that hasn't paid their invoice and it's now outstanding. There's not much that can really go wrong with that. So the way that you want to approach it is that you want to hire that part-time VA to begin with, and get them to start working on these low risk tasks to begin with, because they won't get every single task right, and if they don't, it's not going to have a huge detriment on your business. You can deal with the higher risk tasks in your business, get them to deal with a lower risk task. If you find that they're not doing a great job even with the lower risk tasks, you probably need to think about getting a new VA. And it's certainly not the case that every single VA that you hire as you grow your business is going to be a home run. So this could absolutely happen. But if that VA does do a good job, and they are showing all the traits that you would be looking for in a VA, conscientious, good attention to detail, all those types of things, start to give them more and more tasks. Obviously, you will need to pay them more because they'll be spending more time. But what you'll find is that as they go up this risk profile, you will find that your stress levels really, really start to reduce down. Ultimately, if we can get them to a position where they're running all the day-to-day client management and all the day-to-day cleaner management, effectively, you now have someone who runs all the day-to-day operations in your business. And if you get to that position, you will find that this business runs really well. That is really the way to think about the VAs. This will really further reduce your likelihood of getting burnout in this industry. So if you're finding the content helpful, please hit like and subscribe. It really helps me. Let's jump on to point 3. So point 3 is then to set out your KPIs, your key performance indicators. So if we have a VA that is now running the majority of your day-to-day operations, obviously you as the business owner no longer have a pulse on the day-to-day operations. Are things going well? Are things going badly? And we need to be able to see if the business is on the right track or not. And this is where your KPIs, your key performance indicators come in. Because, with your KPIs, you should use your KPIs as a way to figure out if things are going well or not. And ideally, you want to give your KPIs should give you as much notice as possible if the business is veering offline, and then you can get to work and rectify those things as quickly as possible. So in your business, come up with, I would say, the 5 key performance indicators in your business. Obviously, we need to keep a track on monthly revenue and monthly profit. These are the top line ones. But the other KPIs that I think are really interesting is what I call the leading indicators rather than lagging indicators. So a very obvious leading indicator would be, number of new recurring clients you've booked in. Because if we have a new weekly client that's booked in, say today, we're not going to see the full benefit of that new recurring client until probably next week, next month, once they've had, 4 lots of weekly cleans go in and then 4 lots of weekly revenue. As of recording of this video, we're in the middle of the month, so we bring on that new recurring client, but we'll only get the benefit of 2 weeks worth of revenue. So if we get a suddenly wave of new recurring clients this month, that is fantastic. We're not going to see the benefit really in our financials and our revenue and profit until probably the next month. But this is a really great position to be in. So tracking the number of new recurring clients is one of my KPIs in my business. I would argue that this is probably one of the most important KPIs you want to be tracking if you're running a house cleaning business as well. Conversely, on the other side, you also need to track your churn rate really closely. So churn rate is the number of clients that are cancelling each month. So if we start off the month with 100 recurring clients and 5 leave over the course of that month, 5 divided by 100 is 5%. Your monthly churn rate would be 5%. If you're getting up above 5%, if you're getting up towards 10% and higher, you know that you probably have a quality issue. So in exactly the same way that new recurring clients brought on is a leading indicator for potential growth, if we are getting a high churn rate, we know that we are going to be that's going to hit our financials in the next month when all that recurring revenue has been lost. So number of new recurring clients brought on is important. Number of clients who've churned off is important. And then the net growth in recurring clients is like the derivative of that. So we take all the new recurrings brought in, take the recurrings that have cancelled, and we get that net position. And hopefully, if you are on a net basis still growing your recurring clients, that will mean that your business is still continuing to grow. So think about, I would say 5 key performance indicators in your business. If you've got your VA running day-to-day operations, if you're tracking these KPIs, you shouldn't need to worry about the day-to-day operations, or what your VA is getting up to, because if the metrics are moving in the right direction, then you know that the business is running well and you're on the right track. So if we can get these 3 things in place, you'll find that your risk of burnout will be a lot lower. You won't give up as many people do, and you'll be able to scale the business whilst really not having a huge amount of additional stress. So if we have this in place, and then we start to add in software and technology, and we can automate some of these tasks as well, that will just allow us to scale that much more quickly and actually more profitably, because technology arguably allows us to run through certain tasks at a lower cost than if we were using a VA. And this is what I'm going to cover off in our next video, the top 5 apps that I use in my cleaning business. It will give you a great overview and a great introduction into the types of software that you want to start to introduce into your business. I'll see you on the next one.